describe to us how it is different than other parts of Tel Aviv and incidents in the past that may have happened there and the frequency thereof.
Well, the actual area itself is relatively built up, a lot of hotels and a lot of different apartment buildings. So there's approximately 20 to 30,000 people living in that specific area, and that's why it's important that we make sure that the different areas are being cordoned off. We've mapped out the areas to try and find which areas are more likely that someone could have fled to, and that's why we're carrying out a significant and confident search of the area with our different units, special patrol units, undercover units, and counter-terrorism units that are now at the scene.
It is early on, as you have said, and you were mentioning the incidents in Jerusalem. And because of those incidents, your preparation in Tel Aviv, any possibility or any considerations of how they might be linked, if at all, to what you have seen happen in the last couple of hours?
Well, that's something that we'll obviously have to look into to see if there's any connection. But initially, we need to find out and understand if we're talking about a terrorist attack. If it's a terrorist attack, then we'll lead our officers to investigate in one certain direction, as well as coordination with other security organizations here as well, as to understand who the attacker was, and if it's connected to any recent incidents that have taken place in other parts of the country, in the West Bank or in Jerusalem, and that will lead us into one direction. However, if we're talking about a criminal incident, then obviously we'll continue to work and try and find that suspect, and whatever we can in order to make sure that we apprehend that individual.
Mr. Rosenfeld, Cal Perry here again. I just want to pick up what Richard is talking about here. It's a Friday afternoon in Tel Aviv. If you could just help me explain to our viewers this street. It's a very busy street. I would imagine there were probably off-duty soldiers there enjoying their Friday afternoon. That has to come to some comfort for you and the security forces across the country, knowing that the reaction time is going to be that much faster.
That's correct. Our response time is very quick in all major cities and in all major public places. I mean, we're talking about a Friday afternoon in the center of Tel Aviv where there are hundreds of people in different pubs and sitting around and just taking it easy before the Sabbath comes in, which is a bit later on this afternoon. But our units were dispatched immediately to central Tel Aviv. We're talking about geographically a relatively small area, and therefore the response time is literally within minutes. All of our units are on the scene, including medical and emergency units. And at this moment in time, we're using the different teams to focus in the different neighborhoods and search, literally building by building, in order to try and find that suspect.
Again, reminding our viewers, this is a fresh story that we are just following, and I don't want to push you too far, Mr. Rosenfeld, but I'm wondering, even though you don't know what the motive was on this attack, has there been any discussion about increasing security along checkpoints leading in and out of the West Bank?
We have to put things into proportion and understand at this moment in time it's significant, and the most important thing for us at the moment for the Israeli police is to understand if we're talking about a terrorist-related incident or criminal-related incident. That is still not clear. Obviously, we're talking about just over an hour and a half since the incident took place. Once we'll understand whether it's a terrorist-related incident or criminal, then our units will advance the search in each different direction, which could lead obviously eventually to the West Bank area if it's a terrorist-related incident. And if it's criminal-related, then we'll obviously have to look and see if there's anyone from the organized crime and families that are involved. That is a different direction altogether. I think we have to concentrate in understanding and letting our units at this moment in time continue searching patiently, intensively in the Tel Aviv area. And obviously the message to the members of the public is at the moment, whoever doesn't need to be outside and walking around in public areas should stay in until we find the suspect.
Mr. Rosenfeld, Richard Louie here again. As you know so well, what we've been covering out of Munich and out of Belgium is something that you have been monitoring very closely there in Tel Aviv and in Israel. And we are now on January 1st, 2016 for you, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I do believe. And at this time, you've now had the last 24 hours where you were on high alert. What was your New Year's Eve-like preparations? And also, what did happen overnight in terms of incidents that might be related to this sort of activity?
Well, over the last 24 to 48 hours, there was heightened security for the New Year festivals. Everything went according to plan, both in central Tel Aviv. There were hundreds of people on the streets, thousands of people celebrating across Tel Aviv, as well as in Jerusalem, with many tourists in and around the areas. including since the Christmas celebrations just over 2 days ago, since the 25th, where we had thousands of tourists visiting the Bethlehem area and the Galilee area in the north. So there was regular and heightened security which has taken place, but specifically today there was no intelligence whatsoever that there was going to be any type of incident in Tel Aviv. At this moment in time, our units are working and concentrating on finding the suspect.
Now, you say your units are concentrating on finding the suspect, so you believe it to be one, at least at this moment. Number two, you had mentioned earlier that you had some concern that he might be, or possibility thereof, of this suspect being holed up in an area close by, or perhaps one of these buildings close by. Can you give us more detail on what you know right now in terms of where this suspect might be?
We don't know 100% where the suspect is at the moment. What we do know is that he fled the area. Our units are continuing to geographically search the different neighborhoods, including, as I mentioned, hotel areas, the main beach, the front beach line area in the Tel Aviv area, which is on the coast, the coastal region. And within a few kilometers around that area, we've set up roadblocks and are searching both apartments as well as empty buildings and other sites that are being developed for the possibility that the suspect fled to that area.
Mickey Rosenfeld, we cannot thank you enough for taking time out to help us understand some of the operations as well as your approach there on the ground. Foreign press spokesman for the Israel police. Mickey